Do you want to help solve a cold case? If you do, we have some exciting news. We are teaming up with a very well-known DNA and genetic genealogy company to solve a cold case. In a few weeks, we'll release a video with more details about the case we'll help solve. We'll be doing this through YouTube memberships. Half the money we receive will go to funding DNA testing and genetic genealogy, which will hopefully help solve the cold case. We have 2 membership levels, and both will help solve the cold case. But you'll also get more perks with your membership. With our lowest membership, you'll get loyalty badges, exclusive emojis, early access to videos, and a 15% discount on merchandise. With a higher membership, you'll get all those perks, plus an extra 10% off merch, an exclusive members-only video every month, and you'll be able to vote on the video's topic. But we think the most important aspect of the membership is to help solve the cold case. Once the case is solved, we'll do a video about it, and, with your permission, we'll have your name or username appear in the credits. This is your chance to change from a passive observer to an active participant in solving a murder. With your help, we hope to bring a killer to justice and give a family some closure. Not only will you help solve a cold case, but you'll also be supporting this channel as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please keep an eye out for our video about what crime will help solve. In the meantime, if you're interested in membership, please sign up so you can get early access to videos, the exclusive members-only videos, and other perks. Once again, thanks for watching. Number 3. Post Malone. Austin Post, better known as Post Malone, was born in Syracuse, New York in July 1995. When he was 9, he and his family moved to Grapevine, Texas, because his father got a job with the Dallas Cowboys. His father was the assistant food and beverage director at AT&T Stadium, which is the Cowboys' home stadium. When Malone was 16, he got a stage name from an online rap name generator. Also when he was 16, he started to make music. He played his first mixtape, Young and After Them Riches, for his friends. At age 17, Malone created a parody synth-pop ballad, Why Don't You Love Me? He also made a video for it for a project for school. After high school, Malone attended Tarrant County College for 6 months. He then dropped out and moved to Los Angeles, California, to pursue a music career. In Los Angeles, he met other aspiring musicians, and they lived together in a house in the San Fernando Valley. In February of 2015, Malone uploaded his music to SoundCloud. His song, White Iverson, was incredibly popular. Malone released a music video to support the song on July 19, 2015. A month after the video's release, it had reached 1 million views. Record labels flocked to Malone, and he signed with Republic Records in August 2015. That same month, he performed at Kylie Jenner's birthday party. Kanye West was in attendance, and he enjoyed Malone's music. West and Malone collaborated on the song Fade for West's 2016 album, The Life of Pablo. In 2016, Malone opened for Justin Bieber on his Purpose World Tour. While on tour with Bieber, Malone made his television debut performing the song Go Flex on Jimmy Kimmel Live. On December 9, 2016, Malone released his debut record, Stoney. It reached number 4 on the Billboard 200 and went 5 times platinum. His sophomore album, Beer Bongs and Bentleys, was released on April 27, 2018. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and was the best-selling album of the year. The day it was released, it broke Spotify records with 47.9 million listens in the US and 78.7 million worldwide. The single, Rockstar, remained number 1 for 8 consecutive weeks. At the 61st Grammy Awards, Malone received 4 nominations, including Album of the Year and Record of the Year. Malone performed at the ceremony with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. However, Malone did not take home any Grammys. After a very successful year, Malone released his third album, Hollywood's Bleeding, in September 2019. It also debuted at number 1 on the Billboard charts. The single, Sunflower, featuring Swan Lee, was included on the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack. Hollywood's Bleeding was nominated for Album of the Year at the 63rd Grammy Awards. Once again, he did not take home any Grammy statues. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Malone performed a live stream for charity from his house, where he showed off his abilities to play other types of music that inspired him. While wearing dresses, Malone and Blink-182 drummer Travis Barker played Nirvana covers. The live stream earned $5 million for the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Relief Fund. Malone's fourth album, 12 Karat Toothache, was released on June 3, 2022. It debuted at number 2 and never reached the number 1 spot on the Billboard 200. He performed the single Cooped Up on the May 14, 2022 episode of Saturday Night Live when he appeared as the musical guest. Malone's fifth album, 2023's Austin, was a departure from his previous albums. It's a more alternative pop rock album. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200. Malone's fifth album, F1 Trillion, was released in August 2024. It debuted at number 1, making it his fifth album to debut in the top 5 on the Billboard 200. On February 11, 2024, during Super Bowl 58, Malone performed America the Beautiful before the Kansas City Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers. In 2017, Malone did a collaboration with something other than music. He was a guest on the Travel Channel show Ghost Adventures. The episode aired in January 2018. Malone joined the Ghost Adventures crew at an abandoned slaughterhouse in Tucson, Arizona. The slaughterhouse, formerly known as the John Meat Packing Plant, was a working slaughterhouse from 1964 to 2004. In 2010, it was turned into a Halloween horror experience. The Ghost Adventures crew was there because it seemed like the horror experience had made the paranormal activity grow. The slaughterhouse is steeped in urban legends. One such legend is that in 1964, then owner Warren James had his 2 children, 8-year-old Sarah and 6-year-old Nelson, visit him at work. He left them alone in his office to attend to some business. When he returned to the office a few minutes later, they were no longer in there. Production was shut down and the slaughterhouse was searched, but the children were not found. The police were called, but they also could not find any trace of the children. A week later, the police did a more thorough search of the slaughterhouse. In a meat grinder, they found what appeared to be human remains. Although they could not identify the remains of the children, Sarah and Nelson were both pronounced dead. The police suspected that the children's mentally unstable uncle, who was Warren James's brother, threw them into the meat grinder. But the police did not find any evidence to arrest him. After the death of his 2 children, Warren James became mentally ill, and eventually he took his own life in the boiler room of the slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse continued to operate under new owners. 10 years after the incident, the police were called to the slaughterhouse because workers had seen 2 children running around. Workers had even seen a man throw 2 children into the meat grinder and then disappear. But then no one ever finds any trace of the man or the children. The story doesn't end there. 20 years after the children were killed, the uncle who was suspected of killing them was found hanging in the boiler room where the children's father had killed himself. The words, "I killed them," were carved into the uncle's chest. It's believed that the slaughterhouse is haunted by the ghosts of the 2 children, their father, and their uncle. The owners of the slaughterhouse asked Zach Bagans and the Ghost Adventures team to investigate because an unseen entity had been attacking staff. Post Malone joined them. During the investigation, Malone saw a door shut by itself. While investigating the door, he heard a loud slamming sound in another area that couldn't be explained. At one point, the crew left Malone alone in the boiler room. He heard unexplained noises and felt someone touch his neck. When they used their spirit box, they heard a voice say, quote, "I touched him," unquote. In the office, they used a talking EVP, which allows spirits to communicate using environmental elements. Bagans pointed at Malone and asked, quote, "What do you think of this man?" unquote. A disembodied voice responded, "Dirty and afraid." After Malone was pinched on his neck, they used the spirit box to ask if the spirit had pinched him. It answered, quote, "I did," unquote. After the episode aired, Malone visited Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada. Bagans brought him into the room where he stored the Dybbuk box, a wine cabinet haunted by a Dybbuk, a ghost in Jewish folklore. Usually the box is covered with a glass box. However, when Malone visited the room, the glass box was off. While in the room, Bagans touched the Dybbuk box and Malone touched Bagans. Bagans then jumped away from the box. After that, Malone had a string of close calls on his life. People have speculated that was the curse of the Dybbuk box. Check out our video, 3 Scariest Hollywood Curses, for more on the curse. There'll be a link at the end of this video. But it seems like the curse has subsided because nothing else has happened to Malone after all these events. For now. Number 2. Meatloaf. Marvin Lee Aday was born in Dallas, Texas on September 27, 1947. You probably know him better as Meatloaf. Meatloaf claims the nickname originated from when he was a newborn. When he was born, he was bright red, and his father said he looked like 9 pounds of ground chuck. As a joke, the nurse wrote meat on the name tag for his crib. When he was in the 7th grade, he was a large kid, and his first and middle initials were M&L, which led to the nickname Meatloaf. Meatloaf had a troubled childhood. His father was an alcoholic, and Meatloaf spent a lot of time in the car as his mother drove around looking for his father at bars. On November 22, 1963, 16-year-old Meatloaf was one of many people who were at the Dulles Love Field Airport to see President John F. Kennedy when he got off his plane for a visit to Dallas. Later that day, the 35th president was assassinated in Dealey Plaza while his motorcade was driving through the city. After hearing the news of the president's assassination, Meatloaf and his friend drove to Parkland Hospital, where he saw First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy getting out of a car covered in blood. In 1965, Meatloaf graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School. He attended Lubbock Christian College, but then transferred to North Texas State University. When Meatloaf was 19, his mother passed away from cancer. After his mother's death, his father tried to stab him. So he got an apartment in Dallas using the money he inherited from his mother. He hid out there for 3 months. He then relocated to Los Angeles, California. In Los Angeles, he formed a band called Meatloaf Soul. The band went through several lineup changes and name changes, which included Floating Circus. But the band found success and opened for bands like The Who, The Stooges, and The Grateful Dead. Meatloaf went on to join the production of the musical Hair. He also signed with Motown Records. Meatloaf's first album was a collaboration with Sean Stoney Murphy, a fellow actor from Hair. Their album, Stoney and Meatloaf, was released in September 1971. The single, What You See Is What You Get, reached 71 on the Billboard Hot 100. From 1971 to 1973, Meatloaf performed in musical theater. His most notable role was part of the original cast of the Los Angeles production of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He would reprise this role in 1975 for the movie. Meatloaf worked on his first solo album with songwriter Jim Steinman during this time. Loaf wanted to make a futuristic rock musical of Peter Pan. The album, Bat of Hell, was released in 1977. The record label executives hated the album and it did not receive much promotion, so initially it did not sell well. But it went on to be one of the best-selling albums of all time, with over 43 million copies sold worldwide, which is more than the current population of Canada. The biggest single was Paradise by the Dashboard Light, featuring Ellen Foley. It's been called one of the greatest rock duet songs ever. In the early 1980s, Loaf and his songwriter, Jim Steinman, drifted apart due to Loaf's partying lifestyle while on tour. Jim Steinman wrote a solo album, Bad for Good, in 1978 with the intention of having Loaf sing on it. However, Loaf couldn't sing because his partying had affected his voice. So Steinman had another singer, Rory Dodd, perform on the album. Dodd is best known for singing on Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. Steinman's Bad for Good was released in 1981 with any contributions from Loaf. But in 1980, while Loaf was acting in the movie Roadie, he got off drugs and regained his voice. Steinman wrote a whole new album for Loaf, Dead Ringer, which was released in 1981. But then the relationship fell apart again. Loaf and Steinman spent a lot of the 1980s suing each other. In 1983, Loaf filed for bankruptcy due to 45 lawsuits and poor management of his money. In the latter half of the decade, Loaf moved to England. He released an album and had minor acting roles. By the early 1990s, no one was expecting much from Loaf. He released a great album in the 1970s, but in 1993, grunge was the most popular rock genre, with bands like Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, and Alice in Chains dominating the radio waves and MTV. Then, on September 13, 1993, Loaf released Bat of Hell 2, Back to Hell. The album was a huge success and had sold over 15 million copies. It was the fifth best-selling album of 1993. Jim Steinman wrote all the songs. The single, I Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That, garnered Loaf a Grammy Award for Best Rock Vocal Performance, Solo. The song reached number 1 in 28 countries and stayed number 1 for 7 weeks in the UK. In the second half of the 90s, Loaf released some more albums, including a Best Of album. Just before the new millennium, Loaf had a role in David Fincher's Fight Club. He plays Robert Paulson, one of the early members of Fight Club. Although the movie was considered a disappointment at the box office, it was tremendously successful on home video. It is now one of the most talked about movies of the 1990s. After Fight Club, Loaf then went on to release the final part of his trilogy, Bat of Hell 3, The Monster Is Loose. Released in 2006, it's the only one of the trilogy Jim Steinman didn't help in the production. During the album's production, Loaf and Steinman were in a legal dispute over the phrase Bat of Hell as a trademark. A settlement was reached and the album was allowed to be released. Although Steinman didn't work on the production, he wrote half the songs on it. This includes It's All Coming Back to Me Now, which Canadian singer Celine Dion made famous. Steinman originally wrote the song for Bat of Hell 2. Steinman thought that the song suited a woman's voice better, so he didn't allow Loaf to sing it for the Bat of Hell 2 album. Bat of Hell 3 reached number 8 on the Billboard 200. In 2009, Loaf did something unrelated to acting and music. He joined the Atlantic Paranormal Society, also known as TAPS. TAPS has a TV show, Ghost Hunters, which started on the Sci-Fi Channel. Loaf first appeared in the show in Season 5 in the episode Bat of Hell. They visited a haunted house in Thousand Islands, New York, for the episode. At the start of the investigation, the show's hosts, Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson, along with Loaf, went to the third floor of the residence. Suddenly, all the batteries in their cameras and audio recorders, which were full, drained to empty. Then, at the same time, their EMF detectors started to flash. The EMF detector picked up a reading when they asked questions. They asked if the spirit could move an object or make a sound. In the next room over, they heard banging. Loaf asked if they could do it again, and again they heard banging. They concluded that the sound was a door banging against the wall. At one point, Loaf left a water bottle on the ledge in the washroom. As a joke, he asked the ghost to bring it closer to him because he would appreciate it. A few minutes later, they found that the water bottle had mysteriously moved about 3 feet to the back of the toilet. Loaf rejoined the team a year later when they investigated Sloss Furnaces in Birmingham, Alabama. Sloss Furnaces was a blast furnace that produced crude iron. It was in operation from 1882 to 1971. In 1981, it was designated a National Historic Landmark. While investigating, they heard something walking around on the metal catwalks. They asked if they were employees, and they heard a ghostly yes. A figure walked past the window, and initially, the Ghost Hunters crew thought it was one of their team members. However, all team members were accounted for. While in the tunnels, Loaf and the team were hit with an overwhelming smell of mothballs. Also in the tunnels, Jason thought that someone said their name was Paul when they asked for names. During the investigation, Loaf said random names, but the EMF detector only reacted to the name Paul. Loaf appeared in the 3rd episode of Ghost Hunters in an episode that aired in September 2021. He joined in an investigation called The Haunted House on the Hill. For the episode, they investigated a farmhouse in Jonesboro, Tennessee. While sitting in the living room, Loaf and host Jason Hawes saw a shadow walk by and block the light reflected from the stainless steel fridge. When Loaf sat in the parlor room, he felt something cold touch his shoulder. This may have been a premonition. A few months later, on January 20th, 2022, Loaf Aday died. No official cause of death was released, but people have speculated that his health declined due to COVID-19. He was 74 years old. His final Ghost Hunters episode aired on February 12, 2022, and it was dedicated to him. Number 1. Matt Rife. Comedian Matt Rife was born in September 1995 in Columbus, Ohio. He was born in the same year as Post Malone. Rife grew up in North Lewisburg, Ohio. When Rife was still a baby, his father took his own life. On March 3, 1997, Rife's father, Michael Gutsky, who suffered from depression, arrived home drunk. Gutsky's father was an alcoholic. In a drunken stupor, Gutsky talked about ending his life. Rife's grandfather egged on his son, saying, quote, "You won't do it," unquote. Unfortunately, Rife's father fatally shot himself. He was only 21 years old. When Rife was 5, his mother married a man who had 3 daughters of his own. He did not connect well with his new stepfather. Rife's maternal grandfather, whom he and his mother lived with before she married, was his father figure growing up. Rife was at his grandfather's house every weekend, and they bonded over comedy movies. Rife says it was those movies that gave him his sense of humor. At age 14, a teacher encouraged Rife to do stand-up comedy at the school's talent show. This was his first taste of doing stand-up comedy. After performing at the talent show, Rife took his stand-up career seriously. Within a year of the talent show, he was doing stand-up professionally. In 2015, 20-year-old Rife did several guest spots on MTV's Wild 'N Out. 2 years later, he was on another MTV show, The Challenge: Champs vs. Stars. In 2019, Rife was a contestant on NBC's competition comedy show, Bring the Funny. He was eliminated in the 8th week of the show. While Rife had found some success, he was not a comedy star. He only achieved mainstream success when he produced and released his own comedy specials on social media. In 2021, he released his special, OnlyFans, which proved to be popular. As of October 2024, it's been viewed 13 million times on YouTube. He released another special called Matthew Stephen Rife on Valentine's Day in 2023. It has over 22 million views. 4 months later, he released another special called Walking Red Flag, which has garnered 13 million views. This special focused on him interacting with the crowd. Clips from his specials became very popular on TikTok. Many people discovered him through these clips. Rife, who is considered physically attractive, developed a large female fan base. On November 15, 2023, Matt Rife's first Netflix special, Natural Selection, was released. The special was controversial because he makes a joke about domestic violence. Many people were unhappy with the joke and thought that Rife crossed the line. A lot of those people wanted the special to be removed from the streaming platform. Others supported Rife, claiming it was a joke and that if someone is offended by the joke, they shouldn't watch Rife's material. Comedian Anthony Jeselnik, who is no stranger to controversial jokes, thought that the joke alienated his fan base. Rife claims that although his fan base is mostly female, he thinks his comedy style is more directed towards males. In response to the criticism, Rife posted a link to what people thought was an apology letter. However, it was a link to a site for helmets for people with disabilities. Before the controversial Netflix special was released, Matt Rife appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. During the September 2023 interview, Rife asked Rogan if he was, quote, a big ghost guy, unquote. Rogan answered that he, quote, thinks it's possible, unquote. Then Rife revealed that he is obsessed with ghosts and ghost hunts in his free time. Rife then talked about his experiences ghost hunting with the people from the YouTube channel Overnight. Overnight is a ghost hunting channel that started in 2017. It was hosted by Elton Cassidy and Corey Scherer. In one notable video, Rife is part of an investigation into the Conjuring House. Located in Rhode Island, the Conjuring House is the infamous home of the Perron family. Carolyn and Roger Perron and their 5 daughters lived in the house from 1971 to 1980. They had many paranormal experiences, like their eldest daughter being woken up when her bed was lifted up by a spirit that smelled like rotting flesh. The Perron family had paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren come to their home. During the Warrens' investigation, they discovered that 8 generations of one family owned the house. Many of the family's children died on the property under disturbing circumstances. The Perron family and their house were the basis for the 2013 movie The Conjuring. During Rife's investigation of the Conjuring House, they had him go into the house alone. Afterward, the team investigated the house together. They caught some of the EVPs on their recorders. A toy car fell off a nightstand in the upstairs bedroom without anyone touching it. They asked the spirits to roll the car off again by chanting, quote, move the car, unquote. The car then rolled off again. Rife appears in other overnight videos, including the Winchester Mystery Manor, which we cover in our video, 3 Theories of the Winchester Mystery House. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. We also have a podcast about cold cases that were eventually solved called Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. You can find it on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you find great podcasts. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.